really hope that when I was younger, I hope that I was a good person to women that were going through the change of life. Because, and like, why is it even called the change of life? Okay? Makes it sound so beautiful, and it's not. And I really get how you can talk to women and they're like looking at their younger self and she looks fierce and well put together, like beautiful hair, nails, skin, just everything popping. But then you look at the person who's standing in front of you showing you that person and you're like, they don't even know each other. Yeah. So I hope I was nice to them. I don't really dislike a lot of things, and I'm not the kind of person to like really complain. I'm like, if something is a problem, fix it and shut up. But menopause, I told my wellness coach at the VA today, baby, she drags me down the stroll with 2 fingers in my nostrils, baby. Like I'm a cheap hoe. And I'm trying to find out, like, what's the beef?
So has menopause played a major impact on your current life compared to how you were living before you had menopause, or before you started going through menopause?
It does. And I'm gonna tell you why I have an attitude with it. I have an attitude with it because I feel like in the grand scheme of life, right? So let's just say my family lineage. Both of my grandmothers lived to be significantly wise. That's how we're gonna say that. So my maternal grandma died at maybe 103, 104. My paternal grandma, she died after my grandma. So I don't really know what age she was, but she was older. And so it's like, okay, if I live that long, how many years have I been negatively impacted by my female reproductive system? So that joint started when I was 11, right? 10, 11. And it's been a possessed villain ever since. So it's like I haven't really had a good life, right? Because my periods were horrible. You know, then I learned I have PMDD. You know, then I learned I have cysts, and I'm just like suffering for what?
And are these all things that there's really no treatment for? Are these things that are like kind of you gotta drive on, or?
Well, I would venture to say that there is treatment, which is why I don't really like the United States, right? It is absolute. It's an illusion of the land of the free, and so as is racism, right? It's not really about, which is stupid in and of itself, because there's only one race, the human race. And so to have people fill out forms and be like, what's your race? Okay, everybody sounds stupid. So it's a battle of resources. Who has them versus who doesn't. And since I'm not generationally wealthy, and oh, by the way, I have melanin, I don't really have access to those resources. And it's not a every woman, everywhere thing. Because there's such a thing called the blue zones, which I've lived in, you might have lived in. And I turned 50 when I was living in a blue zone. And girl, I felt good.
So what exactly is a blue zone?
A blue zone is a space where there is a large number of something like Centaurians or something, and that's people who are 100 plus, and they out here living. They're not bent over, they're not, no teeth. They're living, and that's what blue zones are, my definition.
So when you were in a blue zone, you felt like like the issues you were having with your reproductive system, where your needs were being met.
Well, they were non-existent to a degree.
The issues were non-existent.
Yeah, because they don't have a lot of additives and preservatives in their food. So in Asia, and where I lived, soy is the main food, one of the main food and this thing called phytoestrogen is in the majority of their foods.
In Asia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where I lived.
So when you were in Asia, did you have to go to what we have here, which is considered like organic grocery stores, to get the food that helps you?
No, it just existed. It existed in restaurants, McDonald's, only place I ate at McDonald's. It existed in Starbucks. It existed at Pizza Hut. It existed at a ramen shop. It exists everywhere because that is how they make their food.
Did your family have do the women in your family have history of issues with their reproductive system, or is this something that started with you?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question because I came from the devil's spawn. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know nothing about my mama. I mean, I can tell you that my mama got a personality disorder. Now I can tell you that. I can tell you that's genetic. But as far as now come on, Tubby.
Okay. So what are some things that you found here in the U.S. that maybe that help you get through this, or can maybe assist you get through?
Well, child, I haven't tried cocaine yet, but don't leave it off of the table. Where's the smoke? I'll tell you what has helped. A healthy dose of Seroquel. Because menopause, at one point, I was changing clothes 3 times a day. Not because I'm on the New York runway, and not because I'm advertising an amazing collection on the New York runway. I was literally soiling my clothes with perspiration. Soiling.
So this has had an impact on you since you were 11. So that's 40 plus years.
Yeah, do you see why I say it's just not it's not balanced?
Yeah.
It's not balanced. Child. There are 51 or 52 symptoms of menopause, and your girl got 105 on an easy day. But this is what I will say menopause has done for me. This is me talking, not you as a university student. This is me as a full grown-ass woman. And I'm going to be honest about menopause. The one gift of menopause is that I literally don't give a fuck. Because just as we're talking, my back is hurting. As we're talking, I feel nauseous. And I'm not talking about I don't feel good. I'm talking about I could go, bleh, and it's just like, wait, what? Let's not add, challenges with my GI system. So menopause has made me a better woman that I wish I'd known and had the courage to become a long time ago. At the moment that I had my first cramp and my sociopath of a birther didn't give me Motrin, nothing, bro. She gave me, they don't even have them anymore, but you know how you go to the store and you can get like an enema in a box, and it's already filled with water? So she was born in the 40s, and so they didn't have that convenience, right? So it started off as like a rubber bag, like a bladder bag that we would use as a camel bag, right? One of those, thicker, with a tube attached. And you put the tube where the tube needs to go, whether it's in the rooter or the tutor. So this hoe, and you could also seal it off. Okay. So this hoe, child, let me tell you what she gave me. She gave me one of them Emma bags and had hot water in that baby for my cramps. And then she gave me a pair of underwear that I think might have been from the 1950s proper, for me to help keep my sanitary napkin in place. Now, mind you, the sanitary napkin is akin to a baby diaper. And of course, I was that person who bled everywhere on everything, and was still doing that at 40 years old. And you know that.
So can you go into detail on how you said menopause made you a better woman?
Oh, okay. It made me a better woman because it has forced me to choose me first.
So who were you choosing before you started experiencing menopause?
My offspring and anybody else that might be important in my life. Always accommodating, always making space, always being, that's okay.
So what do you think with menopause caused that shift in you to put you first?
Well, I think there's a thing called menopause rage, and I have that. I could have caught a case a couple of times. You know it. You helped me get off the ledge. You also told me to stop threatening people on the Federal Communications Commission phone line. However, I take Seroquel, and it's been a game changer in that I actually sleep, whether I want to or not. But the other thing is, it helps me to literally not slap the shit out of people. Randoms, known and unknown. Anybody can get it, with the exception of my best friends, Thornberry, my supply NCO, and my Gobi, my chief of hugs. Anybody else, they can get these hands, these feet, these elbows, baby. With or without Vaseline being on my face.
So was rage an emotion you think you've always had, but menopause brought it out? Or is that a new...
Great question, young tenderoni. So, when we look at the movie Inside Out, one of our faves, well, it's been a game changer for psychotherapy because it actually does talk about how emotions work in this thing called the body, right? And so anger is a normal emotion, girl. Anger, anxiety, fear, happiness, joy, sadness, depression, and disgust. Those are healthy emotions. However, when you come from the devil's spawn, as I did, the wound exactly, baby. I think that thing probably rotted out when she finished with us. Child just fell out, probably while she was walking, like a pit, okay? but who am I? But when you have that, your needs are never important. Like my period story, which is why I was intentional about my offspring's period story. First off, I learned what I needed to learn at school. Thank God. My 6th grade teacher, when I was in middle school, Feltwell Middle School in England, we had to go through sex ed classes. Thank God. We got introduced to sex ed classes in 5th grade. So 5th grade sex ed, 6th grade sex ed taught me about my body. Taught me how to clean my lady purse and everything. So I think because looking back, because I know the pattern of my body, I was very stressed living in the family home. So I didn't start my period there. I started my period when we'd flown back to the United States for good, and we were at my grandma's house, the birther's mother. This is important. So I started my period there, and I went and told my grandma. Of course I told my grandma. That was my girl. The birther was so petty that she was pissed that I told my grandmother first, who then, I didn't even tell my mother, okay? My grandma did. So the birther says, well, since you told her, she can get you your sanitary napkins. Well, baby, my granny didn't give me no sanitary napkins. She gave me some tissue because she was born in 1913. And normally her tissue was 1 square usage, 1 square for urine, 2 squares for bowel movements. Probably why I stayed constipated, because 2 squares for a bowel movement, but please go on. But anyway, she was so, frugal that she taught me that. But then when my period came, she taught me how to wrap enough tissue so I could create something of a sanitary napkin. You can imagine how uncomfortable that was. And I rode around all day in my birther's car. And I don't know if she ever got me some sanitary napkins. I might have gotten sanitary napkins from her sister's house. So it just wasn't a good experience. And then I had horrible cramps that she wouldn't give me any medicine for. So it's just been a hard road. And then I've had times where I've lost my crap with debilitating anxiety that would spike up the week before I bled, resulting in me requesting to be inpatient sometimes so that I could take care of my offspring. So it's just not been an easy road. So I'm just pissed with this whole thing. I'm like, fuck, how meet me in the block.
Do you think that the negativity surrounded by your initial period maybe followed you all the way through all of your periods and into menopause?
I think it might have followed me into menopause because the body keeps score. And I believe that there's a connection with people having chronic pain as adults. I think that there's a connection to being abused. I think there's a connection to experiencing medical neglect, which looks like you don't feel well, but while you're in the hospital, they don't give you anything to quiet your pain. And so I think all of that attacks the nervous system, and then the nervous system is low-key frayed as you get of age. Does that make sense? So I think that actually did trail in. However, where I've grown is that while I really hate how menopause makes me feel, I don't have any shame around it because I don't have the energy.
So on average, about how long does menopause last? Does it vary?
Honey, I don't even know, because I ain't got finished through reading the symptom part yet. So when I get the symptom part under control, maybe then I can I'll have the energy to do some research around how long this shit gonna last. But other people in healthy countries where healthcare is universal, they don't have these kinds of problems.
You mean problems related to their menopause or just?
Well, so yeah, to aging. and hormones. But we live in a space that is deeply flawed, and it's fueled by toxic masculinity, which really means I'm deeply insecure about who I am as a man. But go off. And so we live in a country where it's like you see these commercials for erectile dysfunction, and you can get this pill and that pill and this pill and that pill and that pill, and then there's no conversation about the woman. Right? Hence, this man getting a testosterone boost is screwing, younger women, because older women, one of the things that comes with menopause is vaginal dryness. Now, blessed be the rock that I haven't had that, but people do. Like, their labia and their vulva get paper thin, bro, like thinner than this. And so something as simple as wiping themselves could cause a tear. And then we have a medical system that can be manipulated. That's what I'm going to say. And so they have out reports that say hormone replacement causes cancer. Even though they've done rigorous studies, the year that it was indicated that hormone replacement causes cancer, they did another study that showed that ain't true. But funding was used to silence that study. And so women are like withering.
So do you think maybe if society put as much effort as they put into, let's just say, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, if they put as much effort as that they put into that being overturned, into doing like actual research and studies to see what could help women, I guess more so age gracefully versus how they are right now, do you think that would be something that's successful?
It would be something that's successful. The studies are being done, I believe, right? Because you always have somebody who's curious. But again, the country is deeply flawed. And so the belief can be that men are the future, but men can't carry babies.
Or reproduce by themselves.
So I think it's a matter of, like, we live in a country where people constantly cheat to win. And so they're not ignorant. They know what it is. Take some of that rah-rah out of your girl when she goes beyond that Roe versus Wade age to that age where her spine is literally curving because she's not getting enough hormones. We'd rather have that girl. She's more tame.
She's easier to deal with.
Yeah. And in addition, testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen, those aren't like, we live in a society that says those are reproductive hormones, which then leaves you to believe that if you're not reproducing, you don't need them. And that's a lie. Progesterone helps with bladder control and sleep regulation. Testosterone helps with sleep regulation. Okay? Estrogen helps with your heart. So, it's a real issue. But, this is the ununited states doing what they do. Doing what they do.